Okay, moving into this next approach, a few characteristics about it. It's the classical approach. Remember, I told you I even used it during my homeschool journey because it fit a lot of the ways that I think children should learn. Okay, so what is a classical approach? Well, it's an approach based on a child's development, regardless of learning style. And so it's a liberal arts education that's based on the 3 stages of the trivium. And the kids are divided into grammar, logic, and rhetoric stages. Basically, at the grammar stage, it's memorizations and chants and poetry. It goes with a child's natural ability to be able to want to memorize beautiful words. And then the logic stage goes into this natural stage of a child where they question authority, more thinking, more argument, more debate type of thinking, to question literature or philosophies or thinking. And then the last one is a rhetoric, where a child becomes an independent thinker. So it's language focused. That's the other thing I want you to understand. It's opposite of images and pictures and videos. A lot of the classical educators sometimes even ban those types of things, video, or very severely limit them in their homes because they feel like videos and images, they instantly satisfy a child's mind, and the mind's not taught to think and slow down and pay attention to detail, which is what language focus does. It makes them pay attention to the book, to how the language is written, and there's an emphasis on teaching Latin. To many classical educators, even though Latin's a dead language, it's very much alive when it comes to how it trains a person's mind or a child's mind to pay attention to the details of language. So it's heavy language arts focused, also very much focused on beautiful words and history. And it's really reaching back into the minds of men of the past, the ancient Greeks, ancient Romans, how a lot of the government was set up in our time. Kids get an appreciation of understanding from great minds of the past is the thought process on this. So you could see some of the considerations would be that skills are taught sequentially, easy for me to say, based on a child's development or their level. The other thing too is that it's also reading good books, like the Charlotte Mason, Unschooling, Unit Study too. They would read good books. Now, sometimes it's not always living books. They're more interested in the classics with a heavy interest in ancients, and then in the Renaissance period where this learning came alive, like where this trivium comes from, this thinking. Okay, so it's to help a child to think independently, pay attention to details on words, language. A strong emphasis in reading and writing is what the emphasis is. Now, let's think about this. Here's some things to pick it up and look at. Some people say their children can't do this type of approach because it's too much emphasis on rote memorization, and that just kills all joy of learning. Others say that a lot of parental involvement is required in something so heavy language arts focus. It's obvious language arts is one of the core subjects or the skill subjects, so that takes a little more parent involvement to teach this. And also they feel some of these facts that are taught by rote or memory are irrelevant to the child. They're just not going to be used in their life. So they also feel like there's too much emphasis put on ancients or classical. Now, also one thing about the classical approach is that they organize content, sciences, and the history according to the time periods. So they will study ancients, and then they'll study medieval, and then they'll study Reformation, Renaissance, and modern history. They study history in order, like a story. Why should we jump in the middle of a story? Sometimes I know that that's one thing that I really loved about classical approach, because I happen to love history. Yes, I know I'm weird, but I love history, and being able to start from the beginning instead of an overly focus on our state history and the 200 years of the government. Not that my children didn't need that or I don't like that, But starting from the ancients and moving forward, I was able to put a lot of history in order and really enjoy it a lot more than some of the other approaches. And they do the same thing with science. They match up subjects of science to what people were interested in the ancients, so the science that people were interested in the Renaissance. So it's very appealing that way from that standpoint. Then again, you have some parents who say, we don't need Latin. What are we going to do with Latin? Then you have some parents who say, my kid is on a track for science or math, and I could see that could be helpful. Or maybe we don't want to do the classical approach, but we're going to study Latin if we do one of these other approaches. Do you see how you can kind of pick and choose? But again, I encourage you to have one approach that is your main approach. Okay, so that is what I want to explain about the classical approach. It's heavy language arts focused, minimal picture, not saying that all classical homeschoolers strictly follow this, but the point is that they want more, their minds paying attention to detail, which is why they study Latin. So you can see the considerations if they didn't adjust the curriculum to the child's learning style. Okay, that's it for the classical approach.